So this is going to be a instructional video on how to remove the door sweep and just some tips and tricks on the back glass for a Dodge Challenger. I believe this is 2016 and up. They are all exactly the same. Even farther back, they're close to being the same, but 2016 and up should be exactly the same. So first things first, we will need a pick tool, and then we will need a pry tool. Specifically, this one works pretty well for what we're going to be doing. So if you have this exact one, besides that, these are just some optional tools for the rear brake light. These are both magnets. This is a pretty strong magnet. This is a little stick magnet. And then we've got a couple different sort of plier options to be able to get those clips out. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we get into disassembling the rear brake light. And then also for the rear glass, this is not necessary, but it's pretty close to necessary. This is going to be a clay bar. For those big defroster lines that we'll run into, this is going to be highly necessary. And then obviously you need a heat gun and all your tinting equipment as normal. So first things first, let's start with the tips and tricks for the rear glass here. Really shrink wise, back glass on a Challenger is pretty straightforward. It shrinks pretty easy. Just do your normal H pattern, and you'll be just fine there. So if we come up in here, we've got the brake light, which normally would be here. Obviously, I've already taken it out, and I'll show you how to get that out here in just a second. Okay, so this is the brake light when it is off of the car. It faces this way normally. What you're going to see is you're going to have these two little clips here and here. That's really all that's holding it on besides these two little hangers. So all these do is slide in and then the clips go up. So really all you have to focus on is getting these clips pulled down and out. But be careful of these clips falling off. Both of them fell off for me. They come off pretty easily, so if you can, try to get back in there with a pry tool, pop those off. If not, you can use a magnet and some other tools, maybe some vice grips, to be able to wiggle these out of the holes, and I'll show you what those look like right now. So I hope I can show you this well, but I'm not exactly 100% sure. So you can see that hole right there. That's where the clips pop in. There's another one over on this side. I can't, but those clips will fall back up into that hole. All you have to do is be able to get a magnet up in there, and then you can take this part of the clip, you can get the bottom part through that hole, and then just grab it with a pair of vice grips and just pull it out. Okay, and then what we'll do once we get this clip out is just reattach it. It goes back on there pretty straightforward. The only other thing you have to disconnect is on the back side here, and it is that wire, that little connector. So just make sure to disconnect that before you go pulling on it too much. You can get the clips out before you disconnect this, but just note that that is attached. The second tip comes from these little pop clips here. These little push pins. There's one there and one over there on the other side. You can see I've already loosened them. You just get your hand under there and give a good little pop and they'll come undone. What that does is that releases this just enough to be able to get this little rubber gasket loose. It's normally pressed up against the window, so it's hard to get the film underneath it. But now we've got a little wiggle room there, so that makes that so much easier. Okay, so for the third tip, you're going to want to do this after you've already shrunk the tint. You've got it all prepped on the outside and you're ready to move to prep the inside of the glass. So from there, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, make sure you got the key on you because we're going to be starting this. It's a good excuse to listen to it if you want to do so. So we're going to start it up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the rear defroster lines on just to get those to heat up. So the problem with these defrosters is they're a little bit thicker than normal. So if I can pull this tint up and show you. So they're just thick defroster lines. So we all know that defroster lines are kind of a hazard for any air bubbles any air channels, that sort of thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat up those defroster lines so that the tint, when we go to install it, really sticks to it. And then we're also gonna clay bar the inside of the window to make sure that solves all of our issues, and then we don't have any little peanuts or air pockets, whatever you wanna call them, pop up. Okay, so after this step, all we're gonna do is prep the glass, clean it with our clay bar, and then do a little scrub and a squeegee, and then we're gonna get to installing this rear tint. Okay, so now we are moving on to the door sweep removal. On these Challengers, it is pretty straightforward. All we're gonna do is pry back the top side of this door panel, get another pry tool in here, and pick that door sweep up out of there at the same time. And then the only other two clips that we need to take out are these little push pins. Pretty simple. They're just little, I call them tree push pins. So they just pop right out. Just get your hand behind there, pop them loose, or a little trim tool as well, that works. But there's only two of those, and then the rest of it all just slides up and out like normal. Okay, so again, I'm gonna take my pry tool. We're gonna start on this inside corner here. We're gonna pop this loose. There it goes. So that first little clip gives us enough clearance to get this tool down in here. Hook the door sweep and pull up. Just like so. And then once we get that in there, we're flipping the tool back over, and we're gonna just use it as a pry bar for us. Just slide that ahead of the door sweep as you're pulling it out, and just putting a little pressure this way, and then sliding it towards you that way. And that will pop right out. And then from there, we're gonna leave that here. We're gonna take these little guys, and we're just gonna pry up on them. We might need our tool to help us there. Yep, perfect. There we go. So now we got both of those loose. We can again stick our tool back in here, pry the panel off just a bit, and pull that out. All right, so we got the window rolled back up, we got the door sweep out. The last thing we need to do on really any borderless window is latch the door, kind of fake it out. So I'm gonna take my little pick tool. You hear it go up. So you just latch the door like it's hitting the latch. It thinks, oh, we're shut. So we're gonna seal the window, and now it's all the way up. Makes your install a bit easier, and you can also know that you're gonna cover if you are hand trimming your patterns. And then also, just to reset that before you shut the door, you just pull up on the handle. It thinks it's opened and it lowers. So again, and it checks. So pretty straightforward. All right, so we got all of our window tint installed. We got the two fronts, the two quarter windows, this rear glass. We already got the rear glass assembled, brake lights back in. We popped the two little push pins back in. Okay, so a couple of quick things when reassembling the brake light. Make sure you have a flashlight on you. The hardest part is seeing where those little hooks hook onto. And then from there, when you get them hooked, you just press the rest of that up in there, and it goes just fine. Make sure you do plug the brake light in. The last thing we need to do is assemble the door sweep on this. So we will go ahead and do that. All right, so we're gonna start off, we're gonna start the car up. Well, not start it up, but just put it into accessory mode. We're gonna roll this window back down. You gotta make sure your top edge is really sealed, so hit it with some heat. Turn that back off so it doesn't beep throughout the video. And then again, we're gonna take our door sweep. We're gonna try to get this back side, and then get the front side, and then we'll try to connect them in the middle. So it's gonna be a bit of a process. It might even feel a bit forceful at times, but we can, it is definitely possible, and it definitely saves you a lot of time not taking the whole door apart. So I'm gonna lay this door sweep up here, and then I'm just gonna pry against the panel here. Stuff that down in there just like so. Again, we're going to find our holes, those lined up. So now we got our back attached. We're going to leave that the way it is. We're going to come to the front, pry this open, and we're going to throw our front on, and then slide it forward to take out the slack, which helps it just kind of lay in here right off the rip. So definitely give that a pull towards the front of the door, and then make sure that's laid in, and then from there we will just run our tool back and push that sweep down. It will get a bit harder to push down here because the window is up against that the metal, or close to being, so we kind of have to push the window away while pulling this apart at the same time. So it might be a little difficult here, but it is definitely possible. And the goal is really to get it started on where that window's hitting on either one side or the other. I got it started over here. So now since it's started, again, this should be pretty easy because the door sweep's in between that and the window. So we'll just push that down and run our trim tool along the edge of the door panel while pulling it apart. All right, just like that, we are set, ready to go. All we got to do, make sure the door is clipped back on. There was a clip up here in the front that you can possibly pop off to give you some more room, so make sure you clip that back on. There's another one back here as well, so just make sure those are clipped on. And then from there, we'll roll the window back up. Turn the car off, and we're done. All right, so that is that. We got the window tint done for this car. Again, we did the 2 front windows, the 2 rear quarter windows, and this rear glass. I think it all turned out pretty nicely. The defroster lines definitely have to watch out for, and just a little more prep and disassembly on the rear glass. And then the door sweep's pretty straightforward here, but it does take some time to get out. The rear quarter's straightforward, really no shrink. The only shrink I really needed was a little bit of a snap shrink on the bottom edge, but not much at all. And then the rear glass shrunk well. Pretty straightforward install. I think it took me about a couple hours to do. So if you're looking to do one of these, know that it's going to be pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you disassemble it the right way, you'll definitely save yourself a lot of time.